Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something really cool. It's a clever technique that helps AI assistants actually understand and answer those complex, multi-part questions we love to throw at them. We're going to see how we get smarter answers by, you guessed it, teaching the AI to ask smarter questions first.
So you've totally been there, right? You ask an AI a really detailed question, something with a few different layers to it, and the answer you get back is, well, it's kind of useless. It's either incomplete or just flat out wrong. And look, it's not because the AI isn't powerful. The real problem is that it's trying to solve the entire puzzle all at once.
Okay, so let's treat this like a little detective case. A complicated question is like a crime scene with a bunch of different clues. Now, instead of trying to solve the whole thing in one giant leap, the best detectives, and as it turns out, the smartest AIs, have a strategy for breaking it down, piece by piece.
Now, this whole strategy falls under a bigger idea called query translation. What that means is, before the AI even starts looking for an answer, it takes a moment to rewrite or rephrase your original question. The entire point is to make the question way easier to search for, which, leads to much better results in the end.
And the specific technique we're cracking open today is called decomposition. It's a brilliant, almost simple idea. Just take that one big, messy question and break it down into a series of smaller, more manageable sub-questions that you can actually answer one by one.
So how does this actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at how an AI can act like a detective, carefully breaking down all the clues that are hidden inside our question. This is where it gets really interesting. And that quote right there really nails it. The AI's first job isn't to find the final answer. Nope. Its job is to find the right questions to ask along the way. It's basically an investigator, identifying all the little subproblems that once you solve them will lead you straight to the final conclusion. So, for example, take this little puzzle from a Google paper. What do you get if you combine the last letters of the words think, machine learning? Instead of trying to do it all at once, the AI breaks it down. First, it solves for think, okay, that's K. Then it uses that result to think about machine, that's E. And finally, it takes that combined knowledge to solve for learning, which is G. It literally builds the final answer, piece by piece.
So this step-by-step process is actually the most common and powerful way to do decomposition. See, it's not just about breaking the problem into pieces, it's about the order in which you solve those pieces. That's the key.
And this leads us to a really important term, interleaved retrieval. Interleaved just means the AI switches back and forth between two things, searching for info, that's the retrieval part, and then thinking step by step about what it just found. You'll often hear this called chain of thought reasoning. It's like, find a clue, think about it, and then use that new insight to go find the next clue. Okay, let's look at a more real-world example from LangChain. Someone asks a pretty technical question. What are the main components of an LLM-powered autonomous agent system? This thing is a perfect candidate for decomposition. It's got layers. And boom, here's what the AI does. It breaks that one big question into three super logical sub-questions. And notice the flow here, it's perfect. First, define the main technology. Second, list the specific parts. And third, explain how all those parts work together. It's a perfect little roadmap to a really solid answer.
And here's how that sequential process works. The AI answers that first sub-question. Then, and this is the critical part, it takes that answer and actually feeds it into the prompt for the second question. This creates a much richer, more informed starting point, making sure that every step is building on the last. By the time it gets to that final question, it has this deep, contextual understanding of the whole topic.
But what if the clues don't actually depend on each other? What if you just bundled a few unrelated questions into one? Well, for that, there's a totally different tactic, the parallel investigation. The difference between these two is really simple. The sequential, step-by-step approach is perfect when the answer to part 2 relies on the answer from part 1. The parallel method, on the other hand, is great for when you've just kind of thrown a bunch of independent questions together, like asking for the capitals of France, Japan, and Brazil. The AI can just go find all of them at once and then stitch the answers together at the end.
So after all this detective work, decomposing the question, retrieving information, and reasoning through it step by step, what do we actually end up with? We get a final answer that is so much more accurate, so much more complete, and honestly, just genuinely helpful.
And this is why all this matters. This isn't just some neat little tech trick. By breaking down problems, the AI gets way better search results, and it can finally start to tackle those complex questions that used to stump it. It builds this rich context that makes the final answer way more reliable. And all of that moves us one big step closer to having the truly helpful AI assistants we all want.
So this all brings us to a final thought. As this technology gets better and better at deconstructing our most complicated questions, the real limit isn't going to be the AI's ability to answer, but our ability to ask. So, what's that one big, complex, maybe even unanswerable question you're going to challenge it with next?